Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our final episode of the KPC podcast for this semester, not forever. I'm Karsan Turner.
And I'm Thurman.
And we've got a couple stories that we want to talk about today. As always, it'd be kind of weird if we didn't have any stories.
If we just sat here.
But I feel like that might have happened once or twice. But
Probably.
We're like,
we don't sometimes we don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, we just kind of wing it. But this is a better episode. And the first story I kind of want to talk about today is the state of the public discourse in terms of political civility and how some people, not all people at CNN, but Donathan Lemon, he certainly doesn't like to respect people that he disagrees with. So last night on his program, he was passing the show off to Chris Cuomo, and he was criticizing President Obama for shaking hands with President Trump at George H.W. Bush's funeral. And this is what he said. He said, "I've got to tell you, I'm just being honest. The Obamas are really classy folks because I don't know if I could be. I don't think I would have shake hands with him. I would just know I couldn't do it," which is kind of weird because if you're this objective journalist and you wouldn't shake hands with someone you don't like.
Does he say he's objective?
Yeah. I remember,
does he really? Because
he
I feel like you have a story every single week on how he has said not every single week, but
almost
that surprises me.
Yeah,
I feel like he should just cling to being
and that's the thing.
One-sided. I mean, you know what? If you're going to be honest about it, fine. Like, people, like, if you acknowledge that, but saying that you're objective when you're not is...
Yeah, and that's the thing. I wouldn't talk about Don Lemon. I wouldn't say a word about him if he said, I'm not objective, I'm a Democrat, my stories are going to be influenced by my political bias because this is my show. Then I'd be like, all right, I'm not going to talk about it. That's why I don't talk about Sean Hannity every week. Could you imagine if Sean Hannity said... No,
I'm
these
objective.
are just the facts.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys, I got to leave early. I've got a Trump rally to attend, you know. But what else did he say? Okay, and then Chris Cuomo. This is how you know what Don Lemon was saying was so bad, because we all know it's like an inside, or it's an open secret that CNN skews left. They claim to be objective, but no one is objective. There's no such thing as an objective reporter. It does not exist. But even Chris Cuomo was saying... I don't think it's about faking the funk, as he put it. I think it's about showing respect for someone, for something bigger than both of them, which is the right idea. You, regardless of a situation, you should be willing to set aside your personal differences in order to support a greater picture, which is, a former president's passing.
And it was his funeral.
Exactly.
You really,
you're going to throw shade when someone's...
That's just not the place to have political turmoil. It's just...
And... Lemon kind of tried to, just calling him Lemon, Mr. Lemon tried to frame it in a way that was, well, Trump's only attacked Obama. Obama's never said anything mean about Trump. Obama's never had a scandal during his presidency. And I mean, 5 minutes of Googling brought me his vice president, Joe Biden's, creepy activities towards women, which are further than allegations because there's video proof of these instances. Yeah, they're children. Out of all, that's so terrible. I don't know. I don't even know what to think about that.
It's creepy, odd.
And then CNN's Jake Tapper, he threw out this tweet a while ago saying that the Obama administration used the Espionage Act to spy on whistleblowers that would leak information to journalists more than any president combined. So that's kind of a big scandal. If you're not hearing about Obama scandals, it's because they were trying to... zone in on that.
And that's why I love Jake Tapper.
Yeah,
I think he's great. I think he does his best to... I mean, I follow him on Twitter, and he usually does a good job of retweeting a lot of, both sides of the story kind of thing. So
yeah,
I think
those
he's
are
a
kind
great
of
journalist.
And, the Fox News version of Jake Tapper is kind of like Tucker Carlson, where Jake and Tucker, they do have their biases due to the networks they work with, but they're not afraid to criticize their own side, and that's kind of what makes them both stand out. And I respect both of them much more than I respect, well, I don't know if I would say like Sean Hannity or like Chris Cuomo. I mean, because they're still respectful, because I appreciate that they are biased and they're upfront about it, but being able to criticize your own side is something that a lot of people can't seem to do these days, and that's how you lead to the destruction of your own side, by not knowing you're doing something wrong. But yeah, that's really all I kind of had to say in terms of that. I mean, if we continue to go down the public discourse of pretending like the side that we're on doesn't make any mistakes, but the other side at the same time, they're the bad guys and we're the good guys, it's not going to end well for the United States. But
no, it will not. And that's, I think, why journalism gets a bad rap these days, is because so many people just have one opinion and they aren't educated on the other side. And so people refuse to even try to watch the other side because they just assume that, and they're probably right, it's just going to be the thing that their viewers want to see. But we need more journalists, hopefully like us, that are going to look at both sides. Yeah.
Yeah, and you really do see a lot of this rhetoric coming from the extremes of both sides. And it kind of blows my mind that whether you're looking at far left or far right content, they both say, we can't negotiate with these people. We have to push with what we believe in because they're evil. And yeah, that's just not something that's very helpful. But people these days, I think they'll be demonized if they even look at what they don't agree with. And so they'll just kind of remain safe. And like today in one of my classes, there was a discussion about some of the like Me Too movement allegations. And so the way our case was presented was this girl said, or no, it wasn't a girl. It was this guy was under investigation for allegedly he was either flirting with women or he was sexually assaulting them. You don't know, and you're not going to know, but you have to make a decision. Do you fire this guy or do you let him keep working? And I was kind of thinking, well, hang on. We have to kind of figure out there's a huge span of different activities going on. If it's you said something that you shouldn't have said versus sexually assaulting a girl, two completely different things. But a lot of students were saying, yeah, fire him. Just go ahead and fire him because that's bad. But it's like you need the full story to understand where that line can be drawn. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with you, but also, I mean, if it was sexual harassment if that's what he was saying, like stronger words, I think would.
Well, that was the thing. It wasn't like sexual harassment.
They just didn't know.
Yeah,
what
it wasn't.
Was?
Yeah, we had no idea. So we weren't told until after that it was something that like it wasn't big enough to warrant the guy getting fired. So we were presented as if it were he could have flirted with a girl that he didn't know she was like taken or whatever, but it also could have been, sexual assault. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we just weren't given. It's like saying this guy could have said, "I'll beat you up," or he could have pointed a gun at you. Kind of forcing students to make decisions based off of the information that we don't have. The fact that so many of them just went to this one decision without saying, well, we need to know the full story it's not very safe. And I think that's kind of the problem that some journalists will face is if they're in that echo chamber of a lot of, information that doesn't actually get all the facts. It just tells the story in an incomplete way.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we're going to take a look at the 2020 election that is coming up very soon. Yeah. I'm sure in the coming months we'll probably hear of our nominees and people will start announcing that they're running. But Chris Saliza from CNN put out this editorial today on how Elizabeth Warren, when she announced did that video on her DNA test, he said the title or headline is Elizabeth Warren's Native American heritage reveal was just as bad as you thought it was. And I would like to first point out the headline. It is an editorial, but this is also someone that works for CNN. So this might be someone that, both sides of the story.
Yeah.
So there's just some quotes in here. One of them is advisors close to Ms. Warren says she has privately expressed concern that she may have damaged her relationships to Native American groups in her own standing with activists, particularly those with who are racial minorities. So basically this editorial questions if Warren's hope to run got damaged or not. And so I looked up who else was looking for a run, and the Washington Post put her second out of 15 people that could possibly be running, Oprah being the 15th person. So Oprah's not going to run for president. I can guarantee that. But I don't know. I'd like to get your take on this. I think that it damaged her for sure. I mean, I've always liked her. I haven't been the biggest fan of her before she put out this video, but I think it was very surprising to me because the editorial says that she came out with, it was either 1/64 to 1 in 100. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was
1,000.
Like,
yeah.
she was not Native American.
Hardly. Yeah.
She
had one person in her pedigree that was Native American.
And I think you could tell if you just, look at a picture of Elizabeth Warren. It's like, really? Is she really Native American? I think that probably took a pretty big toll on her potential run because, there's one thing about trying to pander to minorities, and this is something that it's hard to do because on one end, people want to say, race, there is no such thing as race. You know, we're all the same. There's one race. It's the human race.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we are aware that there are different groups of people who act different ways, and if you want to gain their support, you have to reach out to them.
Right.
But one way you don't want to reach out to them is if I said, listen, black community, I'm black, I'm a brother just like you. They'd be like...
That would backfire, just like this did with her.
Yeah, the headlines, they would be terrible. But I think if she maybe framed it in a way that was, okay, I noticed that there are a lot of these issues with Native American groups. I want to help you guys by solving these problems. And I also think that's why I know the support for President Trump from Hispanics and African Americans have increased more than I think like any Republican president, because he is worried about things that actually matter to these minority groups, like money, the tax cuts. You're going to have more money because I'm going to be implementing these policies that don't tax you as much. And everyone loves money, so that kind of brings a lot of people more closer to supporting Trump. And another thing with the Hispanic communities, he talks about immigration. He always says, we want people to come in, but we want them to be here legally. And that resonates really well with all the Hispanics who have legally gone through the rigorous process of becoming a citizen. They go, yeah, I think it's fair that he would want to, you know, build this wall, or whether it's like a physical wall or a metaphysical wall, to ensure that people like me get into this country fair and square. You can't just, you know, go in and you're not an actual citizen. That's unfair to me. You know what I mean? So those ways, by implementing good ideas and policies, that's how you win those minority votes, not by faking it and pretending like you're actually one of those people, you know? But
yeah, I think this backfired on her. I think that I definitely see her still running. I think that she'll announce that she's going to run somewhat soon. But we also have Bernie Sanders is number one on this list, which surprised me.
First president who's 1,000 years old.
Yeah, no, but as we just found out,
Yeah.
he is 1 year older than Joe Biden. He is 77, and Joe Biden is 76.
Yeah,
and I mean, they look completely different in age.
Yeah.
I don't see Bernie Sanders making a run. I think that he is very outspoken, and I think he will always be outspoken, but I don't think he'll make another run. As I was saying, Joe Biden definitely had his chance. I think he could very well be our president currently if he had ran, but he decided he didn't want to run. He regrets that decision. So I'd be interested if he
also,
does that again.
He, out of all the other candidates, probably has the highest number of skeletons in his closet in terms of things that if people found out this information
and
about
I think
him,
it will once he announces, if he announces.
Children-sized skeletons in his he those video compilations of him like grabbing kids, like I don't know
smelling
if you've
their
ever
hair.
seen.
Yeah, I showed you them, didn't I? I
maybe.
think I showed you and James them a couple weeks ago.
Oh, really? Okay.
Was
Yeah,
that me?
those things
Maybe.
are.
I don't want to take credit for it, but
Yeah,
I showed James it and you already known. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
it's.
I definitely think people will take, because I wanted him to run in 2016. I would have voted for him because I had always loved him. But then one of my friends pointed that out to me and definitely changed my opinion on him.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan. I think a lot of talk with Kamala Harris from California and Cory Booker. I think he's from New York or New Jersey. I think that those two could be runners. I really hope Amy Klobuchar runs, though. She's my homegirl from Minnesota. Plug for Amy, Amy Klobuchar. But the Star Tribune, which is the Minneapolis newspaper, put out a story. I think it might have been an editorial, and like there's a lot of talk on whether she's going to run. But I think that she would do really well, especially after the Kavanaugh hearings, because she was on that committee and she had some good questions for him and responses. And so I think that she would get a lot of support, not just from Minnesotans, but also
Minnesotans? That's what you guys are called? Yeah, I think Kamala Harris and Cory Booker, if they don't win in 2020, they'll probably find a way to put themselves in a really good position for 2024.
Yeah,
and
I think they're just starting to get, especially Kamala Harris is just starting to get attention, and Cory Booker's always kind of been someone in the shadows that people know of, but yeah, I think 2024 would be more so when they would run rather than 2020.
What about celebrities? You think any celebrities on the
if
in the
Oprah,
Democratic
no,
Party would?
I'm done with celebrities, aka Donald Trump. We tried that, been there, done that. It's just not. I'm sorry, it's just not your place. You know what?
No.
You can have a political opinion. You are welcome to help campaigns and use your platform for good or whatever you support. Of course, I think that's a great idea, but if you have never held a political office or done anything in politics, you should not hold the highest office in our country.
That's true.
I mean, that's why I was so angry about Donald Trump for more than one reason. But I mean, it's just not, it's someone that needs to know. I mean, for instance, Donald Trump keeps asking the Supreme Court to like immediately take one of his cases with like the transgender ban or the detaining that's happening at the border. You can't just surpass. I mean, like there's a court system you have to follow. He obviously he's not aware of that. I don't know. And there's just all the departments, all the things that you have to know, all the things with like bills and everything. Like there's just so much to know, and you can't just like throw yourself into it.
That's true, yeah.
So no to celebrities, no to Oprah.
Also seeing how they give their political rants during award shows. Could you just imagine if like 10 celebrities just went up there and tried to do that? It'd be like the Grammys, but turned up all the way. I feel like I had something else to say after Oprah running, or the idea of Oprah running, or something about Trump not knowing how courts work, but I don't really know. We'll have to see.
I don't know if he probably. I'm assuming he knows how the court system works for the most part.
Wants to,
but
I think
he thinks that since he's the president that he can have like
and he's used to running his own business. You know, so true. So he expects things to happen. If he's signing a deal with another business and they say no, you can't just do this, he's like, oh, that means ask later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then so he's like, I'm just gonna keep doing this, and then it might work, but it doesn't really work like that.
But yeah, well, I mean, I think it'll be interesting. I think the Democratic pool will be really big for the 2020 election, but the Republican pool is going to be probably very slim. I mean, do you remember 2016 how many Republicans there were and how little Democrats there were?
Yeah.
There were 3, and then I don't even know. I don't remember who the third one was.
I don't either. Yeah. Oh, I will tell you who will not be running and who will not be successful if they do it. Beto O'Rourke. I think he was just
word
like
on him.
Yeah, I think he was just like a funded, like all the think tanks with all this money. They were like, hey, let's get Beto O'Rourke. You know, he seems cool with the kids. If we just give him enough money, he can have a strong campaign. But
he's like a white Obama in my eyes.
Yeah,
is that bad to say?
No, he is white. He is not Italian or Hispanic like his last name kind of claims it to be. I think he's like Irish or something. I don't know. He's white, but he's doing the Elizabeth Warren, pretending to changing his last name to be something else. But
I don't know. I disagree. I think he would do well, but I don't think he will run. Yeah. I really don't think he will.
I just imagine him at the debates with like a fidget spinner or something. I don't know. Ever since he like went on stage with that skateboard, I just feel like
I've probably seen that in front.
So I just imagine him trying to like look cool to the kids. He wears sunglasses that say like cool whenever he shows up to the debate or something. I don't know. I don't know. I definitely think Cory Booker or Kamala Harris would be that's who I'd put my money on in 2020 or 2024, just seeing how everything would go. But I don't know the future. So
yeah, I mean, we'll definitely have word on that for next semester. That's probably a lot of what
that's true.
We'll be talking about.
Looking at the candidates.
Yeah.
So yeah, this has been unless you have any other things you want to say. This has been our last episode of the KPC podcast for this semester. Be sure to tune in January when we will be back with our regularly scheduled program and our regularly scheduled but slightly different KPC news. But other than that, I'm Karsan Turner.
And I'm Hannah Thurman.
And you guys have a great Christmas or Hanukkah.
Whatever you celebrate.
Or Kwanzaa. Actually, if you celebrate Kwanzaa.
I think it's what is Kwanzaa? What?
I don't know. Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays.